From a very young age, Shanti Devi spoke of a world that no one around her knew. A world that seemed to come from a time and place she had never set foot in, but which she described with terrifying accuracy. "I am not this girl," she would say. "I am someone else. I once lived in another city, had a husband, and died giving birth." These words were not just childish fantasies. From the age of 4, Shanti began to share astonishing details about a previous life, a life that most dismissed as a product of her imagination. But her stories were neither vague nor confused. On the contrary, they included names, places, and events that no one had ever told her about. It was India in the 1930s, a country where beliefs in the afterlife and reincarnation were deeply rooted in the culture. However, what Shanti described challenged even those beliefs. She mentioned the city of Mathura, a place hundreds of kilometers from her home in Delhi, and spoke of a husband named Kedarnath and the death of a baby, her own child, under tragic circumstances. Her parents, initially skeptical, began to grow uneasy. Where was the girl getting those names from? How could she know details that no one in the family knew? Shanti's story not only captivated her parents, but the entire community as well. But the real surprise came when it was decided to investigate her accounts. A trip to Mathura was organized to find out if what Shanti was saying had any basis in reality. And what they found was something that would forever change the way people thought about memory and identity. Shanti was able to recognize people, places, and objects with an accuracy that was impossible for a girl who had never been there before. She pointed out houses, described routes, and named relatives with names and details unknown to those around her. Shanti Devi's story was not just a local anecdote, but a case that began to attract the attention of intellectuals and public figures. Mahatma Gandhi, known for his open-mindedness and his interest in the mysteries of life, ordered an official investigation to rigorously examine the case. What seemed like a simple childhood memory began to turn into an enigma with profound ramifications. The idea that consciousness could survive death and reincarnate in another body challenged the boundaries of scientific and spiritual thought of the time. But behind this story of mystery and reincarnation, there was a dark secret, a murder that Shanti, in a new life, seemed to have left behind, but whose echo resonated in her words and memories. Her account began to reveal not only the existence of her past life, but also the identity of the person responsible for her death, a man who had cut her previous story short and whose shadow still threatened to spread. Every detail that Shanti recounted challenged tangible reality, inviting us to wonder where truth ends and legend begins. As the girl continued with her story, it took on a life of its own, and those who listened couldn't help but feel caught up in a plot that seemed straight out of a novel, yet was unfolding right before their eyes. This case, which began as a simple curiosity, became a turning point for the study of memory, identity, and the mystery of life after death. The story of Shanti Devi is not just that of a girl who remembered her past life, but also that of a murder that transcended time and could only be uncovered thanks to her memories. A story that invites us to question the very nature of existence and that, to this day, continues to fascinate and bewilder those who hear it. As Shanti kept revealing more details, her story never ceased to amaze. She not only remembered her husband and her son, but also described her home in Mathura with a level of detail that left those who listened to her breathless. She described the house with its colors, the rooms, the furniture, and little details that no one had ever told her about. She spoke about her daily routine, the streets she used to walk, and people who, to those around her in Delhi, were completely unknown. But the most shocking moment came when Shanti named the man who, according to her, had caused the death of her son and her own disappearance in that past life. A man she accused of murder, a name that echoed powerfully in Mathura. For many, this was simply unbelievable, almost impossible. How could a girl who was barely 4 years old know about a crime that had happened years before in a distant city? Shanti's family then decided to accompany her to Mathura, searching for answers they themselves doubted they would find. What they found was astonishing. Upon arriving in Mathura, Shanti was able to guide her family and the investigators directly to the house she had described, pointing out doors, windows, and details that would have been invisible to any visitor. The family from her past life, including his widow, were skeptical at first, but they couldn't deny the accuracy of the girl's memories. Shanti recognized every person, even those who had never been mentioned in front of her. Even the personal belongings, the photos, and the layout of the rooms matched the descriptions Shanti gave. The man identified by Shanti, when confronted with the accusation of murder, was left paralyzed. No one expected that a little girl could bring such a dark secret to light, much less that her memories would be so precise. The investigations that followed confirmed that the man had been involved in suspicious circumstances related to the death of Shanti's son in her past life. The story began to spread and was soon covered by newspapers and media in India and beyond. Scientists, psychologists, and spiritualists began to debate the case, some skeptical and others fascinated. Mahatma Gandhi, impressed by the story, ordered an official investigation to gather testimonies and analyze the truthfulness of Shanti's claims. The case of Shanti Devi opened a new debate about reincarnation and the possibility that human memory can transcend lives. At the same time, the girl's account raised an even greater question: could the soul seek justice beyond death? The testimonies and the official investigation shed light on a hidden tragedy that seemed to have been buried by time, but had been awakened by the words of a little girl. This encounter in Mathura not only confirmed Shanti's memories, but also showed the power of truth to come to light, even when it seemed impossible. However, not everyone was ready to accept this story. The controversy grew, and with it, the tension between faith for some and science, spirituality, and skepticism. Shanti, an innocent girl, had become the epicenter of a debate that transcended human understanding, challenging the boundaries between life and death. Her story not only spoke of a hidden past, but also revealed the deep wounds that a murder had left in lives that already seemed closed off forever. The story of Shanti Devi not only moved people, but also challenged the understanding of identity, the soul, and justice. Meanwhile, Shanti's life in Delhi went on, but with an invisible burden, the weight of memories that did not belong to her, or perhaps they did, and a fate that seemed tied to a mystery greater than anyone could have imagined. The girl grew, and with her, her story became more complex, deeper, and more unsettling. As Shanti grew, her memories not only persisted, but became more vivid and detailed. They weren't just confused fragments, but clear images that the girl described with the confidence of someone who had truly lived those experiences. Neighbors and relatives began to notice something strange about her. It wasn't common for a child to speak with such conviction about a past that no one knew anything about. Her knowledge of the languages and customs of Mathura also amazed those around her in Delhi. The story caught the world's attention, and many experts decided to investigate the case with both scientific and spiritual rigor. Some doctors tried to find psychological or neurological explanations, while other specialists in paranormal studies saw in Shanti a unique and unprecedented case. But the evidence was not based solely on her words. During the trips to Mathura, Shanti not only identified places and people, but also revealed secrets that no one had told her, details so specific that it would have been impossible to make them up. For example, she remembered the name of her husband's daughter from that past life, a fact that not even the biological family knew. She also described the clothes she wore, her daily habits, and even some intimate moments that only someone with true knowledge could know. These details increased both interest and controversy. The scientific community was divided, but the truth is that the case was becoming a social and cultural phenomenon. Shanti's parents, who at first were skeptical, now had to face the reality that their daughter seemed to carry the soul of another person, with a story and a tragedy that had been frozen in time. The investigation expanded, and the man accused by Shanti was eventually brought to trial. Although the process was complicated due to the unusual nature of the evidence, social pressure and testimonial evidence influenced his conviction. But beyond the legal trial, there was the moral and spiritual judgment that society was beginning to make about life, death, and the possibility of reincarnation. Shanti Devi became a living symbol of something that many believed in, but few had seen so clearly: the continuity of the soul and justice beyond the grave. As the years went by, the girl became a woman, but she never lost the connection to that past life that had marked her from such a young age. Her story was documented by several researchers and even today remains one of the most studied and debated cases in the world. The case of Shanti Devi not only challenges our understanding of memory and identity, but also raises profound questions about the nature of existence and the mystery that surrounds death. Can we really understand what happens after we leave this world? Does the soul truly continue on? Can justice reach beyond physical life? These questions remain unanswered, and the story of Shanti Devi invites each of us to reflect on them, while her legacy lives on, reminding us that reality is sometimes stranger and deeper than we can imagine. Shanti's life not only marked a turning point in the history of reincarnation, but also touched the deepest parts of those who knew her. Her testimony was not just a story, but a window into the unknown, into a mystery that defies logic and human understanding. Over time, Shanti became a symbol of hope for many, living proof that life does not end with death and that love and justice can transcend time and space. But not everything was easy. The burden of carrying memories that were not her own, of living with a past that did not belong to her, was a constant struggle. Social pressure, doubts, and skepticism affected her life, but her strength and conviction never wavered. Her parents and her community learned to respect and protect the truths she carried, and her story spread beyond India, reaching the ears of researchers and curious people all over the world. The case of Shanti Devi was studied not only by scientists and parapsychologists, but also by philosophers, theologians, and psychologists who saw in her story a meeting point between science and spirituality. The controversy remained, but the respect for the girl and her story was undeniable. Today, decades later, the story is still alive, reminding us that there are questions for which we still don't have definitive answers. Memory, the soul, justice beyond life. Concepts that Shanti helped us contemplate from an unexpected perspective. And sometimes, the most incredible stories are the ones that invite us to look beyond, to question what is established, and to open our minds and hearts to the unknown. Shanti Devi's legacy is not just the story of a girl who remembered her past life and found her killer. It is a call to reflect on what it truly means to live, to die, and perhaps to be born again. This case opened a door to the possibility that our lives are not just isolated moments, but parts of a much larger cycle. A cycle that could have profound consequences on how we understand justice and destiny. While the world continues to search for answers, Shanti remains a beacon in the darkness, a reminder that life can be more complex and mysterious than we ever imagined. Perhaps somewhere in the folds of time, her words still echo, her memories awakening the hidden truth within each of us. Over the years, Shanti led a quiet life, far from fame, but her story never truly disappeared. She became a living legend, an inspiration for those who believe that the soul is eternal and that love transcends even death. The emotional impact her story had on her parents and on the family from her previous life is hard to measure. On one hand, there was the relief that the truth had come to light, and on the other, the burden of carrying a past they could no longer change, but which had been redeemed in some way. And what about the murderer? His story is a reminder that, beyond human justice, there may exist a universal justice that does not forget, that is not lost in the oblivion of time, and that finds its way through the deepest memories of the soul. Shanti Devi invites us to reflect on the very essence of life, that perhaps we are more than fleeting bodies and memories, that maybe within us lies an invisible thread connecting lives, stories, and destinies between history and legend. Her case continues to challenge skepticism, embracing mystery and offering a fascinating glimpse into what might lie beyond our understanding. A mystery that perhaps only a little girl could bring to light. Do you like these stories? Then give us a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. You help us a lot to keep bringing you amazing stories and to grow this community.